Superhero fatigue is real, but is it really by the way of the audience? As long as a studio is putting out great product, people will show up for it. The only way fatigue could be real from the consumer's perspective is if the product is legitimately good and the audience doesn't participate. But such a relationship is a myth. When something is great, people want to see it, share it, and relish in it. How long it takes for the rest of the world to find and embrace it is the only variable that can't be fully controlled. After all, there are definitely products or fandoms that have not crossed over into household name status, but have a thriving fan base that is supporting the products they produce. It is only going to be a matter of time before they make it out into the larger public. But for the bigger studios, they operate on a model that cannot really wait for such a scenario to happen over the course of years or decades. The studio system lives in constant fear. They're dealing with millions of dollars on every project, and in order to keep their job for one more week, they have to make something that's going to justify the cost. When you have a genre such as superheroes, you can make a good movie for around $100 million budget and have a strong chance of earning that money back and maybe a little profit on top. That formula only works when you keep costs low and you bring in experienced and energized talent to create new entries. But if you don't bring in new and energized talent but keep using the same people over and over again with a schedule that doesn't give them any time to rest, the quality goes down, and when it comes to storytelling, you can't make up for an exhausted creative with more money and more special effects. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who Karens would have difficulty telling the two apart, are essentially the authors of the successful period of the MCU, with Captain America the First Avenger, Thor the Dark World, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Agent Carter the series, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, all written within a total of 9 years. You will not find another writer or writing team that has produced as many entertaining stories in that period as these two. It's hard enough for the most talented and experienced of writers to produce a great script in 2 years, let alone 6 features and 1 television series in 9. Yes, by the time these two got to Civil War, the quality began to decline, and who could blame them? Marvel was running on a high, where they thought their brand was beyond quality, forgetting the cardinal rule: your brand is only as strong as you make or maintain it. Even when bringing in other writers for Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, Iron Man, and Thor, you still have the problem of a tight production team dividing their time across 2, 3, or 4 movies a year, trying to seize and hold on to that love they built among the audience, all while having lost focus on just trying to make one great movie instead of making 4 brand name films. These guys were no longer producers of Marvel films, they were the assemblers, Hollywood's mightiest producers, putting out content like it was Ford Model Ts, but at least Ford gave his employees the weekends off. And while they were very aware that the quality was on the decline, they had already committed to the output as it allowed them to dominate the theater market year after year. How did they make up for that lack of quality? By enacting the very thing Hollywood argued to George Lucas about decades earlier when it comes to the new technology for special effects and how easy it will be to abuse. Instead of exercising some discipline and growing enough to meet their own output demands with experienced talent, Disney and Marvel clamped down on their control and threw money at each project to make up for the dwindling quality. Essentially, they completely lost sight of the old axiom: you have to spend money to make money. Yes, you have to invest in your product if you want it to be complete, but you shouldn't be spending more money on it than what you could possibly make. They tried to cut costs by hiring fresh-faced writers and fresh-faced directors, but they hadn't actually earned their status nor their skill set in order to deliver the output that would be required to maintain the brand quality. There's an old phrase from the industry when it comes to making something: good, fast, and cheap. Pick 2. If you want it fast and good, it isn't going to be cheap. If you want it cheap and good, it isn't going to be fast. And if you want it fast and cheap, well, it isn't going to be good. But leave it to Disney to try and game the axiom by swapping out cheap for blank checks and still making it not good. With any genre, you can only milk a cow so often in its lifetime before you run dry and start to move to milking other appendages, hoping whatever juices flow out will be palatable enough that the audience will keep swallowing it. The problem? Audiences aren't stupid. Yes, audiences don't know what they want until after they see it. Heck, they don't even know what they need until after they see it. But the one thing they do know is what they like. And while the specifics change from person to person, at least outside of mobs and cults, audiences like something that surprises and appeals to them beyond the key jangling Michael Bay and Roland Emmerich high-intensity action fest. So many people look at an oversaturated market thinking it is the audience that's getting tired and not looking at the source, where the extreme output and the desperation to be the first is leading to exhaustion from the studios, which is leading to poor quality. When the industry is pumping these out and writers and producers are wanting a taste of that box office, they're going to be throwing everything they can at the wall to see what sticks. Most of them are going to be derivative ideas. A lot of those ideas were pushed through production and released so fast that those ideas fell off the wall and hit the ground when the first teaser trailer dropped online. A franchise thrives when it is able to constantly bring something new to the genre without betraying that genre. Such an achievement requires imagination, experimentation, and patience. All things that terrify Hollywood studios. But if a couple of those ideas work, they'll stick with them until the audience checks out. But you're not leaving because they're still trying. You're leaving because they are not trying. It's not you, the audience, that's fatigued by superhero movies or westerns, romances, comedies, dramas, mysteries, action, or even musicals. It's the studios making them, thinking you want these movies now, and running themselves haggard instead of investing the time needed and wanting them to be great. The fatigue isn't the consumption, the fatigue is the production. Never forget, guys, when it comes to great stories, it all starts with the script.